Olympic sports are boxing, horse riding, pentathlon, discus, javelin, long jump, running, and wrestling. Around 500 BC, hymenids were used as protection for the knuckles and hand. They were thongs of oxhide approximately 3 meters long that were wrapped around the hands and knuckles many times. At around 400 BC, spirophy were introduced. The spirophy were very similar to hymenids. The only notable difference was that they contained a padded interior when wrapped around the hands, and the exterior of the thong was notably more rigid and hard. Soon after the spirophy, the oxys were introduced to boxing. They consisted of several thick leather bands encircling the hand, wrist, and forearm. A band of fleece was placed on the forearm to wipe away sweat. Leather braces extended up the forearm to give greater support when punching, and the knuckles were reinforced with leather as well. The rules were no holds or wrestling. You could hit the opponent while on the ground. Any type of blow with the hand was allowed, but no gouging with the fingers. No ring was used. There were no rounds or time limits. Victory was decided when one fighter gave up or was injured. No weight classes. Opponents were selected by chance. Judges enforced the rules by beating offenders with a switch. And finally, fighters could opt to exchange blows undefended if the fight lasted too long. Olympic summer sports: triathlon, rowing, sailing, aquatics, shooting, athletics, archery, judo, canoe, kayak, modern pentathlon, taekwondo, tennis, table tennis, boxing, wrestling, weightlifting, handball, rugby, badminton, football, basketball, volleyball, cycling, fencing, and golf. Winter Olympic sports: skating, skiing, luge, biathlon, ice hockey, curling, and bobsleigh. Boxing gloves now are heavily padded so they can reduce injuries to the boxer's hands, but they increase injuries to the opponent's body. There are 3-minute rounds, a total of 12 rounds. A minute is typically spent between each round of the fighters in their assigned corners, receiving advice and attention from their coach and staff. The fight is controlled by a referee who works within the ring to judge and control the conduct of the fighters, count knockdown fighters, and rule on fouls, which are no hitting below the belt, holding, tripping, pushing, biting, spitting, kicking, headbutting with hitting with any part of the arm, hitting the back of the neck, back of the head, or the kidneys. No holding the ropes for support when punching, holding an opponent while punching, or ducking below the belt of their opponent. When a boxer is knocked down, the other boxer must immediately cease fighting and move to the furthest neutral corner of the ring until the referee has either ruled a knockout or called for the fight to continue. Doric columns are the most basic of the 3 Greek columns. They have a capital made of a circle topped by a square. They have a shaft. There is no base in the Doric column. Ionic columns are more slender than Doric columns. The capital of the column is decorated with scrolls. The Ionic column is more decorative than the Doric columns. Corinthian columns are the most decorative type of columns. Corinthian capitals have flowers and leaves below a small scroll. The Corinthian style is the mostly seen in Roman architecture. Athens was the highest form of democracy in Greece, but Athenian democracy was different from the democracy we practice today because women were not allowed to vote, foreigners could not be citizens, the rich had more power than the poor, and poor independent farmers often lost their land to wealthy citizens. Many of Athenian citizens were slaves, about half the population of Athens could not vote. Sparta was an oligarchy, a form of government in which a few people hold power. Sparta was ruled like a military camp, very different than Athens. Boys were taken from their families at the age of 7 to begin training with the military. Every Spartan man was accepted to serve as a soldier and live in barracks until they were 30 years old. Only after their military service could the men marry and begin their families. It was a crime not to marry and have children for the state. Government now. Oligarchy is not a type of government anymore, and now there is democracies, monarchies, and dictatorships.